everyone. Welcome to another episode of Cosmic Conversations. I am your host, Marla Martenson, and I have a super magical guest with me today. This guest is considered one of the best trance channels of our time, psychic medium Riz Mirza. He has transformed thousands of lives, unlocking the deep and powerful mysteries that lie within all of us. During the last decade, Riz has channeled almost 1,000 public Circle of Light gatherings with his message bearer, Red Eagle, in addition to over 100 advanced master spirit guides. Through his channeling, he shares an indescribable force of love and a powerfully meaningful approach to life that has inspired many. His highly requested channeling sessions provide an ecstatic atmosphere of rest and rejuvenation, while also receiving empowering, life-healing messages that will create positive changes in your life forever. Welcome, Riz!
Thank you very much. Nice to be here, Marla.
So happy that we're doing this.
I know, at the end of the year.
Yeah, this is perfect, you guys, right before 2019. You may be watching this, for years to come, but it's super powerful. And I go to Riz's Circles of Light, and they are so magical. And, it's just like the best thing. It's the best ticket in town, I'll tell you.
Well, thank you. That word has been coming up a lot lately, talking about magic. Yes. And I consider myself to be an observer of magic and a person who discovers magic. And one of the themes that are always spoken about in the channeling circles is how to discover more magic in your life, how to awaken your third eye, if you would, and that being the center of how we're connecting to this unseen reality, or the greater, more expanded reality, which is, simply put, I think, a much more powerful way of seeing what's happening around us and understanding what's happening around us, and of course, what's happening within us. So it's been a very powerful year. What year hasn't been powerful? Right. I think that, Charles Dickens said it best in the novel, A Tale of Two Cities, when he said it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Yeah. And I find that we could say that every year.
Right.
Because in many ways, one could say the world has never been more at odds, but at the same time, we could say the world has never been more integrated or more connected. And I think this is true as we are constantly evolving. And constantly, speaking of constantly, when people come and approach me about doing one-on-one work, or when we're going on retreats to India or to Japan or Egypt, those really deep moments that we all have with one another when we're very, very honest and open with each other, it is about, we kind of feel like we lost that magic. We lost that spark. And we kind of refer to our youth as when we had that spark, when we had that connection to that magic, and how do we get that back?
Right.
So that's something I always love talking about. If you got a few hours, a few days, or a few months on this show,
we'll definitely do more of these, because there's the conversations. There's so much to talk about. But so channeling, it's also very popular now. I interview quite a few channelers. I love watching them on YouTube and going to see channelers. And why is it that, do you think it seems that there are more channelers out there now? And are there Red Eagles, or some of your guides will probably explain this to you, are there beings out there waiting to find a channel to come through to communicate?
Well, I would like to say that there's so many spirit guides around each and every person. Some of them are just kind of like twiddling their thumbs, waiting for you to make that step to kind of connect. Okay. And people say, well, why don't they just intervene and make my life so much better? Well, now we're getting into some really deep conversation, because the core belief of whether you feel that beings are meant to come in and intervene and make sure that everything goes perfectly for you, whatever version of perfect you have for yourself in your life, or whether you are taking another philosophy to your life, that this is an integrated, co-creative experience called reality, where how we talk about this is very, very important, because just the word channeling can bring up so many, many different points of references for people. Just like when you bring up the word psychic medium. Nowadays, there's psychic medium shows on television. I have one in development, but the general consensus always seems to be people who don't believe at all, and there's nothing you can do to convince them, even if you give them their grandmother's social security number during a reading, which I've never done, but maybe that'll happen. But you can give them very specific information, and they'll just go, maybe this person researched me, or almost nothing will make them believe.
Right.
Then there are people who are very, very enthusiastic and very, very much wanted to create dialogue and conversation that supports this and have had their own experiences. And there are people right on the fence.
Yeah.
So I think this is true with anything, though. It's not just channeling. It's with music. It's with books. It's with movies. If people don't like it, they don't like it. And people who are open, and people who are halfway. So how long are you going to just, try to keep pleasing people? And certainly in this experience that I call my line of work, which has been for so many, many years, it is very, very important to me that we use language that hopefully will be accessible and mean something to a lot of people. I have scientists who have come. I've had neurologists who have come to my circle of light.
Wow.
And if something touches you in your heart, sometimes science goes out the window. But so let's talk about that. What is science, and what is this? Is this a magical thing called channeling?
Right.
Well, okay. So science, from my perspective, is it's the understanding of how to, in a sense, prove something is a constant. Like, okay, so this happens every time we mix these chemicals together. It is consistently the same reaction, and we can rely on it. Therefore, it becomes a science.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We can always rely on 2 + 2 is 4. We can always rely on that this is the formula for oxygen. So it's science. Being able to, and that's just for all the scientists out there, that's just my rough way of putting it, but there's truth to that. And then, but I say that science is also being able to detect something. Science proves many things by having the tools to observe a phenomenon and then see that be consistent. And then that tool either tells them through some sort of measurement with this device, or a camera, or a sound recording, or a vibratory frequency recording. And then, okay, there's something here. But when we sit down to channel, the way psychic channels, how many times are we going to say that in this conversation today? We should have a little meter that goes, he said channel again.
Channeling.
Okay, so when people, maybe one day there will be a device that you can point at the channeler, and you'll see some beam of light go into the channeler's head, and an aura lights up around them.
Right.
And maybe until then,
right,
some scientifically minded people, I put that in quotation marks, won't believe it till then. Oh, there is something. Look, there's a light going into his head. We need to investigate that now.
Well, Daryl Anka did have scientists. Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, did have scientists put something on his brain, tested his brain while he was channeling.
Me too.
Yeah, and that's in his documentary, so it did.
Yeah, they sent. I've done it as well, and it was kind of off the charts. The change in my brain function, but that doesn't mean there's a spirit guide in there. I bet you a lot of channelers in the old days were written off as multiple personality disorder or schizophrenic.
Right. Guys, when Riz brings in Red Eagle, I haven't seen you do the other guides, but I've seen Red Eagle, and the shift in the room is powerful. Your face changes, your body language changes, your eyes change. It's like, you're even better looking. I mean, you're already so handsome, and then this like powerful, gorgeous being is like changes you, and then the voice is completely different with this accent. So it's not. I mean, there's no question for me.
There's no question about it, and I am. The Circle of Light has been happening for more than a decade consistently here, 2 or 3 times a week for many years in Malibu and other parts of LA. And we've done it all over the world. And many, many people have said what you have said about the profound shift when the guides come through. And some people don't, some channelers don't shift that much.
Right.
I think I've just always been an artist, and I've allowed myself to be very, very loose. And many, many spirit guides use what they've got. If you are a Ferrari, they'll drive you like a Ferrari. If you are a pickup truck, they'll drive you like a pickup truck.
Yeah.
You have to, no matter how good a driver you are driving what the car is capable of. I happen to be very theatrical and as an artist and all of those things that I was my whole life. So they can be very theatrical through me, and I love it.
Right.
And I think that the way channelers, or channels, I like to say channels, deliver, I think, is the same. We all step out of a conscious control of our body and our voice and our thinking. It is very much similar to, I think people out there know what it's like when you're falling asleep, you don't even know what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Something like that. Just multiply that by 1,000.
Wow. Yeah.
And being able to surrender, that is a key word. And knowing and trusting that this is a very, very deep, ancient, and very sacred practice. When we step out of this, the driver's seat, then I allow the spirit guides to take over. I go into the passenger seat, or I go in the back seat, or I go in the trunk. Wherever I don't interfere with parking.
Red Eagle said you were sitting on a tree or something, sitting on a branch of a tree or something.
So when you are channeling deep, deep in the trance, you have no awareness of what's happening in the room. There are various states of awareness that I've noticed over the years where sometimes I can sense somewhere in a dreamlike state the mood of the room, but I don't really remember dialogue between Red Eagle and the people who are sitting at the circle. So channeling is allowing yourself to step to the side, to hand the steering wheel over to these very highly evolved and intelligent energies that are interdimensional. Of course they are, because we don't see them here.
Right.
And we use that word, dimension, very, very confidently and freely in metaphysical talk over all these years. Because it's something that we feel. So we say dimensions. But who knows what dimensions are? We're all going to be talking about it. We'll say one thing, scientists will say another thing. All we know is something magical happens. When the guides come through, they are delivering messages for the group that are about awakening that inner being, that inner power, that inner magic. Mm-hmm. So it's just like when you have a channel on the television. So all these frequencies are flying over our head at all times, radio frequencies, television frequencies, and the only way we can catch one of those frequencies, pull it down, and put it into a screen is through these devices.
Right.
So channels are this, and we call that change the channel.
Right.
So channels are the same way. Yeah. We all channel different spirit guides. Some of us channel what they call master guides. Mm-hmm. Now, people have agreed for the master guides.
Right, yeah. Well, what's interesting is he takes over your sight and your voice and everything because he sees us, he'll look, and it's just so interesting how he can come in and use even your eyes, like he's in your body, like a soul in the body, because and the most magical thing, I got to tell everybody what happened when the first time I came to the circle. I was sitting there with my friend Anna, and Red Eagle was talking to a man sitting on the sectional sofa, and he had just lost his father, and he's wanted to have a message from his dad. And then Red Eagle said, he looked up, because there's, you guys, Riz has in his house a staircase going up and a balcony, because there were about 40 people that night, so some people were sitting up on the stairs. And he looks up to the stairs, and he sees a woman sitting on the stairs. He goes, "That your father too?" We all gasped. He says, "I saw light went to you." So there was a light, which was the dad spirit at this man, and it flew up to his sister, who would,
That's the first time I'm hearing of this. So you're saying that the brother was sitting somewhere and the sister was sitting somewhere else?
Nobody knew they were related, and he looks up, "Oh, that's your father too," and we gasped. And then we're like, "Oh my God, he saw the light fly up." And then the other thing that blew me away was when he's sitting there talking, and it's dark outside and everything. And then he turns to one of the guys, and I forgot the guy's name, whatever. He says, "Hey, Bill, please open the door. The cat wants to come in." And then he opens the door, and the cat saunters in. There's no way that we would know there was a cat outside. You couldn't see outside, hear anything. And we're all like, "Oh my God."
Well, you have to, those will all go in the book, apparently.
Yeah, so he's out there so he can see outside, and he's in your body scene, And it's so like interdimensional. What you're saying, it's just so amazing.
And how and these. Let's just talk about channels for a moment, because there have been some very, very well-known channels, and I'm sure some not well-known, amazing channels.
Yeah.
But look at Jane Roberts. Are you familiar with her?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Seth.
And she was probably the first in Western society to bring channeling out to the masses. I mean, now it's not a book that's for the masses because it's so dense. The information is it's such high language.
Yeah.
But then you have Esther Hicks, and you have different channels who are out there doing this.
Yeah.
I find this to be a very, very profound and moving experience, because it's not coming from any hierarchy. It's not coming from any, in my opinion, doesn't come from any dogma, because what I channel is truly, I think, very practical. Right. Beside, the magical aspect of being able to connect to someone's loved one who's passed on, or that's not all. As you come to the circle, so that's not the only thing that happens here. No. People will, Red Eagle or one of the other spirit guides will say, "What's happening with your left pinky toe?" And the person goes, "I broke it."
Yeah. Well, he told me the last time, he says to me, and I'd just been dealing with this and just spoken about it to my husband. He says, "Oh, your lymphatic system is sluggish. My top problem is my lymphatic system backing up into my armpits up here, and I have to really work on that." And he says that it was just unreal. It's like just always those confirmations every single time. So
yes.
Red Eagle will tell if they want to get a message from their deceased pet or loved one or something, or spirit guide. I was told that one of my guides is Confucius, and I didn't know that, and I had asked a question about something I saw as a child, and he says, "Let me ask your guide." "Oh, your guide is Confucius." I'm like, whoa. But what about, do you do mediumship too? So if somebody, came to you...
I am a psychic medium, so right. Yeah, so I do mediumship readings all day long, by phone, or like this, by Skype, or right. I don't do in person any, but I've been doing that for close to 15 years.
Right. Do you prefer to do the channeling and just bring Red Eagle through, or somebody, or do you like to do like James Von Traub?
When you channel, you get to sleep while you work, so why wouldn't I want to do that?
Right.
When I'm doing one-on-one sessions, it's very, very focused, and you can never guarantee that someone is going to come through from the other side. Okay. How can you guarantee something like that?
Right.
I have to say, I've always, touch wood, I've always gotten some information on someone who was crossed over. I've never had an experience where I couldn't connect to that person. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I haven't, but I haven't ever had any problem with that. Sometimes they stick around and, they'll speak for a longer period of time. But I would love to talk about that for a moment, so thank you for bringing that up. A lot of people think that when you do a mediumship reading, it's kind of like an interview that the psychic is having with the person who's crossed over, and it's not really like that. You can't say, "Hey, can you ask Uncle Joe where the red suitcase is with all the money?" And they'll go, "Yeah, it's under the 10 feet under the ground behind the doghouse or something." Right. Doesn't work that way. Yeah. Doesn't work that way. At least not for me. Okay. The way it has worked for me is that I do feel the presence of someone or many people around a particular person. I am communicated to in full sentences sometimes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's like I see a vision or a movie plays in my mind. I may see symbols or very sometimes disconnected words that don't mean anything to me, but I say them and the person reacts pretty strongly, because that was something very personal that no one could have known. Right. That was between them and that person. Right. So sometimes the person will say, can you ask them if this... And I'll always just put the thought out, and maybe there'll be a response, but it's almost like they come through to say what they have to say, and it's up to us to receive that information and be satisfied with it. Right. Sometimes people come through that you never believe would have ever come through for you, because maybe you didn't even get along with them. Mm. And they come through to say, "Look, we have known each other in many lifetimes. This last lifetime I was alive, we weren't supposed to get along, and that was for a purpose. Right. And we actually are old friends." Yeah. Well, and so people are very surprised by that kind of experience.
Yeah, and you told me, because on one circle I wanted a message from my brother who died in 2004, And so Red Eagle was talking about him protecting my car, and I always pray for protection in my car every time I get in the car to drive, and he says that. So he talked a lot. Now, after the session was over, the circle, you and I were saying goodbye to each other, and then you said, oh, your brother came through and stuff. And I said, yes, and he told me about the car, and you said, yeah, I can see that. He's got this like Trans Am type of car. And I wanted a confirmation. I said, Riz, do you see what color the car is? And you said, it's blue. And it was blue. His car was blue. And I was like, oh my God, it was another just confirmation, and that's a rare color for a car to somebody just guess,
Yeah, especially in
bright blue,
California,
bright blue
black or silver right there.
Now, I have a question about your body. So when he takes over, sometimes these things last 4 hours because there's like 40 people, and Red Eagle will go to each person and give them an individual message. And I mean, you don't have to go to the bathroom or he's drinking water, but I mean, do you get... Like, I'm looking at you sometimes thinking, it's hot in the room, I'm like sweating, you're in this big shirt, and then you're sitting there for so long, and it's unreal. I said, this guy is got some stamina, but maybe you don't feel anything, or what's happening with your body?
Channeling, especially full trance channeling, there's a difference. There's people who channel who are consciously channeling, meaning they're still who they are. You could talk to them in the middle of it and say, hey, Sarah, whatever.
Yeah.
And they'll answer your question, but then they'll say what the spirit guide is saying. They're still channeling.
Right.
But full trance channeling is like taking a nap.
Yes.
That's why they call Edgar Casey the sleeping prophet.
Right.
So when I channel, it is full trance out. Mm-hmm. Now, I have to say in the very beginning years, it was I would wake up out of the trance famished, and midnight would be somewhere in some diner in LA just scarfing down food just to ground myself. But after I gained about 15 pounds, I'm okay. Right. And I had a dear psychic friend of mine tell me, look, about 10 years ago, she had said, look, I have to tell you something. I've seen channelers' bodies break down over the years.
Yes, I've heard that. Yeah.
And please don't let that happen to you. And you have to really have a regimen for yourself that works for you, where you have your life force is still really strong and you're flexible and you can do this. And I think that a lot of it had to do with an emotional surrender to what it is that I do in my life, which was to just be of service and to love that, and then also understand that all the messages were for me as well, and for me to really take care of myself and to honor this work. And just like an athlete would honor what they do, and anyone should honor what they do and take care of themselves so they could do it better. Right. When I come out of the trance now, I actually feel refreshed and very, very laid back. It feels great to come out of that trance. Yeah. The body is this conduit, and the structure of that, the energetic structure of that, is fed by how well you're doing emotionally. So you have to take care of yourself in that way. Yeah. I do traditional meditation for myself for a good half hour before I channel.
Okay, all right. Yeah. And you don't drink alcohol, I know that, right? And
no.
Do you keep a pretty strict diet? And
I do, but can I tell you something about that?
Yeah.
We spoke to Jane Roberts earlier. Jane Roberts used to smoke cigarettes and drink beers while she was channeling.
That's right. I didn't know about the beer, but she'd be smoking.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. Yeah.
So Seth, who's the spirit guide that the channel Jane Roberts would bring through,
right,
would actually get up from the chair during her group, go to the fridge, pull out a beer and a cigarette, and sit back down. And why was the spirit guide doing this? Right. Because, again, the channel is the vehicle. So if it takes diesel, you better put in diesel to make this car run well. Right. So Jane, who was a very shy person in many ways, from what I've read about her, she needed that physiological change in her body for the spirit guide to go, okay, now we're very loose in the body. So I think that you could probably do whatever it is that you want, right, but it has to be appropriate for what you're doing in the channeling chair. So for me, no, it doesn't. Alcohol and that stuff doesn't work for me. But I don't have anything against it if it helps you channel.
Right, but I mean in general in your life, just the way you take care of yourself.
No. For me, it's very much about 90% perfectly eating well for me.
Right. You must.
Vibration. We are a vibratory force. Our soul our energy, what it is that we are the soul,
right.
And we are this vibration, and we should put into our body and into our mind high vibrational understanding through food and through the thoughts that we think and the beliefs that we hold.
Right.
I'm so grateful to be a channel,
yeah.
But it does go in waves because there is a lot of energy expenditure. There's a lot of work that you do on yourself behind the scenes.
Yeah.
You know, I always say that, you know, your relationships and your families, that's the ultimate spiritual practice.
Right. Yes.
Right? It is. That's where so much authenticity
comes from. That's where the buttons are pushed,
back.
right? The buttons are pushed, and we got to see how we react, how we handle it, right? Is that what you mean?
Absolutely. Because your reactions, you know, look, we're talking about how to create your own reality. How do we create our own reality? Well, first of all, define what reality is to you. For me, reality is the emotional reality that I feel within my being. That's my reality. If you get a parking ticket and it makes you mad, now that anger is your reality. If I get a parking ticket and I go, oh well, I'll handle it, now I'm not angry, so my reality is I'm fine.
Right.
But however you react to things happening in your life, that becomes your reality. We've all been at a celebration, at a party where we didn't feel like celebrating. Maybe we were not feeling happy at all, but we're at a party.
Right.
Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
That's reality. You're at a party, but that's not the reality. And the reverse is true. You could be at a very sad event, and yet you're not that sad inside. You have another perspective. So I'm a student and a teacher of understanding personal reality.
Right.
And when you have the tools to understand how to master that, I believe that self-mastery is not about how well we can do a task. Actual self-mastery, mastery of the self. What is the self? We are the feeling being. So being able to master your feelings doesn't mean that you become this automaton, this robot. Mastering your feelings means when you master yourself, you're able to shift from feeling not good to feeling peaceful or quite good.
Right.
Without even moving a muscle, without having to go get something, do something, feel something, drink something, eat something. It happens within you because you understand how to shift the feeling body. And from that, one may say that magnetizes a better feeling life experience in everything that you do. Because you start to see the old adage of everything happens for you and not to you. And my channeling and my third eye opening happened through a series of losing most of my family members.
I hear that from people. Once they lose somebody close to them or a couple of people, then they get something happens. They get this third eye awakening or something. Why do you think that happens?
First you drop into your heart.
Right. Okay.
It silences your world. And then your world gets silenced and something you start to hear better. And through that process of pain, if you are truly searching for or open to a next level of understanding, you know, it's interesting, as I say this, we always talk about the next level.
Yeah.
Actually, the next level, it goes this way.
Okay.
The next level is here, always going into here.
Okay.
I don't know, all the way out here.
Right.
Levels, when you go to the next level, think about it sinking deeper into your being, rather than traveling somewhere out there into some universe you may or may not know anything about.
Right.
This is the universe right here, how you're communicating and being with people. So through that pain, I was able to move through it and come into an opening. It's like coming through a forest and getting to the ocean suddenly.
Yeah.
And the ocean was my own awareness and my ability to receive. So the pain emptied this vessel of thought. It emptied this hard drive. It defragmented this hard drive where I was able to now receive and process these streams of information coming into me about perfect strangers.
Right.
And then it eventually led to the channeling. And I encourage people to read some good books if they can find some good books on how to connect to their guides. Very, very important.
Yes.
I hear you.
People can work with you one-on-one to help them with that as well. So.
Sure. You go to my website, www.rizmirza.com, and drop us a note. And it doesn't matter where you are. We can speak this way, too.
Wonderful. Well, I have one last question before we say goodbye, because I know you're doing your circle tonight. But so people, a big question that people will often ask psychics, and they want to ask guides, what is my purpose? Why am I here? And I think humans confuse purpose with job, with their career. And
well put.
Yes. So what do you have to tell people about why are we here?
It seems to me that we are here to create ourselves and discover ourselves simultaneously.
Okay.
I think that we come in to this life with a basic sort of blueprint, and I would like to say our factory settings.
Right.
Which are kind of our gender, our ethnicity, the families we chose to be born into, whatever physical abilities or disabilities or challenges, whatever we want to call it. A set of circumstances for us to work through. So that would be about discovering ourselves and then creating ourselves from there. Mm-hmm. And if you just look around, we honor all people who discover and create themselves well. Right. They are our stars. They are our visionaries. They are our teachers. They are the ones we look up to because they have a fluidity with that, mm-hmm. of constantly discovering, rediscovering, creating, and recreating themselves. And then you discover and recreate yourself, and then your perspective changes, and then life starts to be more interesting again, and then that magic starts to happen again. It's so interesting about that word recreation because it spelled out recreation.
Right.
And we all want recreational time.
Right.
We all live for recreational times. Why is it the word recreation? Mm-hmm. Well, we are recreating ourselves, or recreating that space, that feeling of freedom, of play, of being alive, and that is the most important thing. And as we're stepping into 2019, right. One thing I would like to say to everyone out there is, when it comes to that stroke of midnight, mm-hmm. On any New Year's or any day, when you want to say good riddance to this day, thank God this day is over, or thank God this year is over. Yeah. I just want to say is, don't do that.
Right.
Because that day and that year was custom designed for you by the universe, and you are then shutting off all your own channels to really receiving the gift, the magic that was within whatever the struggles were, and whatever even the pleasurable experiences were. You won't even understand those deeply. When you're like, get good riddance to it. Good riddance to what? The universe's perfectly designed reality for you that you co-created?
Right.
That's exhausting. It's exhausting saying that, but it's even more exhausting doing that.
Yeah.
So surrender is one of the big things, and I'd love to talk about the word surrender next time we talk.
Yes, we will, because we're going to have to do part 2 and 3, and So I just want to encourage everybody in coming into this year, just play, have fun, do what you love, and don't put so much pressure on yourself to feel that you're not living your purpose if you're not making a certain amount of money, or you're not famous, or you're not thinking success in the terms of societal expectations, because we're kind of brainwashed for that. It's really just being your true self and letting your magic come out, as Red Eagle would say, that magic. He talks about magic a lot. So, and then you guys, maybe next time we'll get to meet Red Eagle. We'll ask Riz if he'll bring him through on the next show. All right.
That would be great.
Thank you, Riz. Much love. Appreciate it.
Much love. Bye, everyone. Happy every day.
Yes, happy every day.